I had never been one for grand gestures, but that night, I couldn't shake the thought of surprising Lisa. It had been weeks since we'd had any meaningful time together. The long hours at work, combined with her frequent business trips, had taken their toll on us. I could feel the distance growing between us, an invisible wall rising higher each day, but I never thought it was anything we couldn't fix. Not us. I smiled to myself as I left the florist's shop, a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite, nestled gently in my arms. I'd picked up a bottle of Pinot Noir from a small wine store earlier, thinking it would be perfect for the night. She had called earlier, sounding tired and distant, but I figured that was just the stress of her meetings. I wanted to surprise her, to show her that despite the long hours and the stress of our lives, I still cared. I still loved her. The plan was simple. She was staying at the Kensington Hotel, a sleek, modern place in the city where her company always booked rooms for their executives. I'd drive over, knock on the door, sweep her into my arms, and we'd spend the night reconnecting. I pictured her smile as I walked through the door, the way her eyes would light up when she saw me. Maybe she'd laugh and say something like, "What are you doing here?" in that surprised, delighted tone she used to have. By the time I pulled into the hotel's underground garage, my heart was beating faster than I expected. I told myself it was excitement, anticipation for the night ahead. But as I walked through the lobby, taking the elevator up to the 8th floor, a strange sense of unease settled over me. I tried to shake it off, but something in my gut told me this wasn't going to go as planned. I pushed the thought aside. Maybe I was just nervous. Surprises always had that effect. When I reached her door, room 804, I paused, staring at the sleek number mounted on the wall. My fingers hovered over the handle, then curled into a fist. I knocked gently. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Maybe she was in the shower, or had her headphones in. After a few more moments of silence, I reached into my jacket pocket, feeling the cool plastic of the spare key card I'd taken from the nightstand at home. The decision felt impulsive, but I figured, what the hell? She wouldn't mind. We were married, after all. I slid the card into the reader. The small green light blinked, and I pushed the door open softly. The room was dimly lit, a soft amber glow from the bedside lamp casting long shadows on the walls. For a second, I thought maybe she wasn't in the room after all. But then, I heard it, the unmistakable sound of whispered voices. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze. "Are you sure?" It was Lisa's voice, low and breathless, barely audible, but unmistakable. "Of course I'm sure," a man's voice replied, smooth and confident, the words cutting through the quiet. The bouquet slipped from my hands, the flowers crashing to the floor. The sound echoed in the stillness of the room. It must have startled them because a second later, I saw them. Lisa's eyes met mine first, wide, terrified, like a deer caught in the headlights. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, her blouse half-buttoned, her hair slightly disheveled. And next to her, too close to her, was him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his shirt untucked and his hand still resting on her thigh. For a second, none of us moved. The shock hit me like a freight train, the sight of them together paralyzing me where I stood. "Jake," Lisa gasped, scrambling off the bed. Her face flushed, and she began to button her shirt frantically. This isn't what it looks like." I laughed, a cold, bitter sound that surprised even me. My voice felt distant, detached. "Isn't what it looks like?" "Really, Lisa? What exactly does it look like, then?" She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Her eyes darted between me and the man, panic etched in every line of her face. I glanced at him, and he had the decency to look guilty, though he didn't move. He just stood there, staring at me like he couldn't quite believe he'd been caught. "Who the hell is this?" I spat, my voice rising now, the rage bubbling to the surface. I gestured toward the man, my hands trembling. "Jake, I can explain," Lisa stammered, stepping toward me, her hand outstretched as if she could somehow fix this. I stepped back, the weight of her betrayal crashing down on me all at once. "Explain? Explain what?" "I'm standing right here, Lisa." I saw everything. The man, to his credit, finally had the sense to look ashamed. He muttered something under his breath and started gathering his things, avoiding eye contact as he hurried to the door. Lisa didn't even look at him as he left. She was too focused on me, her eyes pleading, desperate. "Please, Jake," she said, her voice cracking. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for this to happen. A mistake. I cut her off, my voice shaking with fury. "How long has this been going on, Lisa? How long have you been lying to me?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't care. Not now. The hurt was too fresh, too raw. I couldn't process it. All I knew was that the woman I thought I knew, the woman I thought I loved, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice barely audible now. "A few months. It just happened." The words hit me like a physical blow. A few months. While I'd been at work, busting my ass to provide for us, she'd been sneaking around behind my back. I felt sick. I stared at her, the woman I'd shared my life with for the past 7 years, and all I saw was a stranger. "I don't even know who you are anymore," I said quietly, turning toward the door. "Jake, wait." She reached out to grab my arm, but I pulled away, stepping out of her reach. I didn't want to hear her excuses. I didn't want to hear anything she had to say. I just wanted to get out of there, to leave her and her lies behind. Without another word, I walked out, the door slamming shut behind me, the sound ringing in my ears like the final note of a terrible, twisted symphony. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The elevator doors closed behind me, sealing away the scene that had shattered my world. I leaned against the wall, fighting the urge to scream, to punch something, anything, to release the turmoil boiling inside me. The elevator descended too slowly, as if it were mocking my pain. Each passing floor felt like an eternity, and when the doors finally opened on the ground floor, I stepped out into the lobby, the bustling sounds of the hotel blending into a low hum that only heightened my isolation. I walked aimlessly through the lobby, the scent of fresh coffee mingling with the soft murmur of conversations. Couples huddled together, laughter spilling from their lips like a cruel joke. I felt out of place, like a ghost drifting through a world that no longer belonged to me. All around me were signs of love and connection, everything I thought Lisa and I had shared. I shoved my hands into my pockets, resisting the urge to lash out at the couples around me. I stepped outside, the cool evening air hitting my face like a slap. I needed to think, to process what had just happened. But all I could feel was the raging storm inside me. I walked to my car, my mind racing as I replayed the scene in the hotel room. The look on Lisa's face, the way she had scrambled to cover up the truth, it haunted me. I had given her my heart, my trust, and she had thrown it all away. As I sat in the driver's seat, my hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white. I wanted to drown out the pain, to forget everything. But I couldn't. Instead, the anger surged within me, a fire I couldn't extinguish. I pulled out my phone and called Mark. My heart raced as it rang, a small part of me hoping he wouldn't pick up. I didn't want to talk about this, didn't want to burden him with my pain. But I knew I needed someone to help me sort through this chaos. "Hey, Jake. What's up?" Mark's cheerful voice came through the line, as bright as ever. "Mark," I said, my voice tight. "I need to meet. Now." "What's wrong?" he asked, concern threading through his tone. "You sound off." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I just caught Lisa cheating on me." There was a long pause on the other end. "Oh, man. I'm so sorry. Where are you?" "I'm at the hotel." "I just left," I replied, anger bubbling up again. "I thought we had something real, Mark. I thought she loved me. I was going to surprise her tonight." "You were going to surprise her? What were you thinking?" Mark's voice turned serious. "You shouldn't have done that. You should have just called her." "Yeah, well, hindsight is 20/20, I snapped. "I walked in on her and some guy. I'm done, Mark. I'm going to make her pay for this. I just need to figure out how." I can help you with that, he said, his voice steady. Meet me at O'Reilly's in an hour. We'll figure this out together. I hung up, a cold determination replacing the hurt. The anger transformed into a plan. I wouldn't let her get away with this. I would gather the evidence, lay it all out before her. She wouldn't just walk away from this unscathed. I would ensure she faced the consequences of her betrayal. The drive to O'Reilly's was a blur. My thoughts were consumed by the images of Lisa with him, their laughter ringing in my ears like a twisted symphony. I wanted to hurt her, just like she had hurt me. I didn't want revenge for the sake of revenge, I wanted her to feel what I felt. When I arrived at the bar, I spotted Mark at a corner table, nursing a beer. He looked up as I approached, his expression shifting from concern to empathy. "Jake," he said softly, motioning for me to sit down. "You okay?" "No, I'm not okay." I snapped, slamming my hand down on the table. "She cheated on me, Mark. She didn't just make a mistake, she was in bed with another man. I can't wrap my head around it." Mark leaned back, taking a sip of his beer. "Have you talked to her since?" "No, I just left," I replied, frustration bubbling over. I don't want to hear her excuses. I don't want to hear her say it was a mistake. I want proof of her betrayal. I want to know how deep this goes. He nodded slowly, absorbing my words. "You need to gather evidence. That'll give you leverage for the divorce." "Exactly. I want to know everything. I want to dig up the dirt and throw it back in her face," I said, my voice hardening. "I want her to feel every ounce of pain she caused me." Mark leaned in, his tone serious. "We can find out who he is, get any messages she's sent him. I know a guy who can help with that. We can track her social media, her texts, everything." "That's exactly what I need," I said, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "I want to see everything. I want to lay it all out before her, make her realize how much she's lost." "Let's do it, then," Mark said, his eyes glinting with a mix of sympathy and excitement. "We'll make this work. Just remember, this isn't just about revenge. It's about taking control back." I took a deep breath, letting his words settle in. I needed to focus. "You're right. It's not just about revenge. I need to protect myself, too." We spent the next hour strategizing, Mark laying out the steps we'd take. I could feel the anger simmering beneath the surface, but there was also a sense of purpose, a driving force that fueled my determination. As we finished our drinks, I felt a sense of clarity emerging from the chaos. I wouldn't be a victim in this situation. I would gather the evidence, confront Lisa, and ensure she faced the consequences of her actions. The rage within me was still there, but now it was tempered by a plan. I would show her that betrayal had a price, and I was ready to collect. The days following that fateful night blurred together. My mind raced with images of Lisa and him, each thought feeding the growing fire of my anger. But amidst that turmoil, I found focus. Mark and I had begun assembling the pieces of my plan, and I felt a strange sense of control returning. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. Over the next week, Mark worked diligently, leveraging his connections and doing what I couldn't bring myself to do. With every conversation, my anticipation grew. We set up a timeline and went through every detail. The anticipation twisted in my gut, feeding my desire for closure. On Tuesday evening, as I sat alone in my apartment, I received a message from Mark. "Got something. Meet me at O'Reilly's." The knot of excitement in my stomach unfurled into something electric as I grabbed my keys. The bar had become our headquarters of sorts, a place to strategize and scheme. I drove there, my heart racing, each beat syncing with the plan unfolding in my mind. When I arrived, Mark was already there, hunched over a table with his laptop open. He looked up as I approached, his expression a mix of excitement and concern. "Jake, I've got the messages," he said, sliding the laptop toward me. "You're not going to believe what I found." I leaned in, a rush of adrenaline surging through me. The screen lit up with a series of texts, flirtatious, intimate messages exchanged between Lisa and the man I now knew was named Ryan. My pulse quickened as I read through them, each word like a dagger plunging into my chest. Ryan, can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. Lisa, you have no idea how much I've missed this. Jake doesn't even know. My heart sank. How could she do this? I felt a mix of rage and betrayal washing over me, pushing me to the brink of despair. Where did you get this? I asked, my voice tight. Mark leaned back, a smirk forming on his lips. I told you I had connections. One of my buddies works in IT for her company. He had access to her emails and messages. I had him do a little digging. Damn, I muttered, shaking my head. This is perfect. I can't believe how easy it was. Mark's expression turned serious. Just remember to keep your cool. This is just the first step. The real confrontation is what you're preparing for. You need to keep your emotions in check. Yeah, I know, I replied, though my voice trembled slightly. The anger simmered just below the surface, threatening to spill over. But seeing this, it's hard to stay calm. Focus on the end goal, he urged, his voice steady. You want to show her the damage she's done, right? That's the real motivation. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. Right. Show her what she's lost. We spent the next hour poring over the messages and planning the confrontation. My nerves twisted and turned with every passing moment, but there was a thrill in the danger of it all. I was finally taking control, finally fighting back. The following day, I put my plan into action. I'd arranged for Lisa to meet me at a cafe near her office under the guise of wanting to talk about our relationship. The location was public, a place where she might let her guard down. I wanted her to feel comfortable before I revealed the truth. When I arrived, I saw her sitting at a table, her eyes scanning the room. She wore a bright smile, the kind I hadn't seen in weeks, and my heart twisted at the sight. Did she know what was coming? Did she feel any guilt at all? I took a deep breath and steeled myself for what I was about to do. Hey, Jake, she called, waving at me as I approached. Hey, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. You look great, thanks. I've had a long week, but I'm glad we could meet. I've missed you, she said, her smile brightening. She leaned in for a kiss, and I instinctively recoiled, the sweetness of her gesture turning sour on my lips. I've missed you too, I said, forcing the words out. I sat down across from her, the tension between us palpable. So, what did you want to talk about? She asked, her brow furrowing with curiosity. I hesitated for a moment, studying her face, searching for any sign of remorse. I wanted to talk about us. Her smile faltered, and I seized the moment. And about some things I've discovered. What do you mean? She asked, her voice suddenly cautious. I slid the laptop from my bag onto the table and opened it, revealing the text messages that Mark had uncovered. I've got some things I think you need to see. Lisa's eyes widened in confusion, then quickly turned to shock as she read the messages scrolling across the screen. Her face paled, and for a moment, she was silent, the color draining from her cheeks. Jake, she stammered, looking up at me, desperation in her eyes. Save it, I said, cutting her off. I want you to explain this. She opened her mouth, searching for words, but nothing came. I didn't mean for you to find out. It was a mistake, a mistake. I echoed, incredulity lacing my voice. You've been lying to me for months. This isn't just a mistake, Lisa. This is betrayal. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she shook her head. No, please, you don't understand. I was lonely, and it just happened. It was never supposed to mean anything. Doesn't that sound familiar? I shot back, my anger flaring again. You think that makes it okay? You think you can just brush it off because you didn't plan for it? She looked at me, her expression a mix of fear and regret. I'm so sorry, Jake. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you. I loved you too, Lisa, I said, my voice trembling with fury. But love isn't just a word you throw around when it's convenient. You've shattered everything we built together. She reached across the table, her fingers trembling as she grasped mine. Please, Jake. We can work this out. I'll do anything. No, I said, pulling my hand away. You've already made your choice. You just didn't think I'd find out. The silence between us stretched, thick with tension and unspoken words. I could see the realization dawning on her, the weight of her betrayal settling over her like a dark cloud. I will make sure everyone knows what you've done, I said, my voice low and steady. I won't let you walk away from this without consequences. Her eyes widened in horror. Jake, please. Don't do this. I stood up, the chair scraping against the floor as I leaned down to look her in the eye. You did this to yourself. I'll be damned if I let you take the easy way out. As I turned to leave, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow wash over me. I had confronted her, laid bare the truth, but the pain lingered, twisting like a knife in my heart. I had opened the trap, and now it was time to see how she would respond to the consequences of her actions. The days following our meeting at the cafe were agonizing. Lisa had tried to reach out, sending messages filled with apologies and pleas for forgiveness. Each ping of my phone was a reminder of the life I once cherished, and each message felt like a knife twisting deeper into my gut. I had ignored her attempts, knowing that any response would only give her false hope. I had made my decision, would confront her in a way that ensured she understood the gravity of her betrayal. The more I thought about it, the more determined I became. This wouldn't just be a conversation, it would be a reckoning. With Mark's help, I had planned for the confrontation to take place at the bar where we'd first plotted our revenge. O'Reilly's had become our strategy hub, and now it would serve as the arena for the final showdown. I wanted an audience, a way to ensure that Lisa would face the consequences of her actions, not just from me, but from everyone around us. I texted her the details, keeping it simple: meet me at O'Reilly's tonight at 7. As I sat at the bar, waiting for her arrival, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. My heart raced, a cocktail of emotions swirling within me. Would she try to deny it again? Would she beg me for forgiveness once more? I glanced at my watch, each tick amplifying the weight of the moment. Mark arrived a few minutes later, his demeanor serious. You ready for this? He asked, sliding onto the bar stool next to me. Ready as I'll ever be, I replied, forcing a smile. I just want her to know what she's lost. She needs to face the truth. Mark nodded, his expression sympathetic but resolute. Just remember, this is about you taking control, not letting her manipulate the situation. I took a deep breath, the adrenaline coursing through me as I scanned the room for Lisa. When I finally saw her walk through the door, my heart sank. She looked beautiful, dressed in a simple yet elegant dress that hugged her figure perfectly. But there was something about her demeanor. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her confidence seemed to waver as she stepped into the bar. Jake, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper as she approached me. I got your message. I gestured for her to sit, my expression unyielding. Thanks for coming. Is this really necessary? She asked, glancing around the bar as if searching for an escape. Can't we talk somewhere else? No, I said firmly. We need to have this conversation here, in front of people who matter. It's time you face the consequences of your actions. Her face paled, but she took a seat across from me, her hands fidgeting nervously. Jake, I know I messed up. I never meant to hurt you. Can't we just forget it happened? Forget? I scoffed, leaning forward. How do you expect me to forget that you've been sleeping with someone else? That you've betrayed me? This isn't something I can just sweep under the rug. I was lonely, she pleaded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. You were always working, and I felt so alone. Ryan was just a distraction. A distraction? I echoed, disbelief washing over me. You call an affair a distraction? You destroyed our marriage for a distraction. The bar was filled with patrons, but my voice cut through the noise. I could feel the weight of their eyes on us, the tension building with every passing second. I never wanted to hurt you, she insisted, her voice rising. I thought we were done. I thought you didn't care anymore, thought we were done. I shot back, incredulous. You decided that for both of us? You didn't even try to talk to me, Lisa. You just went and found someone else. She opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in her throat. I could see the realization dawning on her face. She had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. She started, but I cut her off, unable to contain my anger any longer. You think this is easy for me? That I wanted to confront you like this? I leaned closer, my voice low and fierce. I loved you, Lisa. I would have done anything for you. And you threw it all away. A moment of silence stretched between us, heavy with the weight of everything left unsaid. I could see the crowd around us whispering, casting furtive glances in our direction, and I wanted to push forward, to make sure Lisa felt the full force of her betrayal. I found your messages, I said finally, my voice steady. Every flirtatious text, every confession of love to Ryan. You're the one who needs to face reality. Lisa's face crumpled, her shoulders shaking as tears began to fall. Jake, please. I didn't mean to fall in love with him. I was confused. I thought you were done with me. I was trying to find comfort. Comfort? I scoffed. What about the vows we made? Did they mean nothing to you? You broke my trust, Lisa. I'll do anything to make it right, she pleaded, her voice choked with emotion. Please, Jake. I love you. I want to fix this, but I don't trust you anymore, I said, the finality of my words hanging in the air. You've destroyed that, and I can't just pretend it didn't happen. As I looked around, I noticed a few patrons had stopped their conversations, eyes fixed on our table. I realized that this wasn't just our battle, it was a public display of my heartbreak, my rage. And I wanted them to see it. Look around, Lisa, I said, gesturing to the people watching us. This is what you've done. You've humiliated me. You've made a fool out of our love. You think it's easy for me to be here, confronting you like this? I'm sorry, she cried, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I never wanted it to come to this. I thought I could make it work with you. I didn't mean for it to get so far. I shook my head, feeling the weight of the moment settle heavily on my shoulders. You made your choice, and now you need to live with it. I won't be the one left holding the pieces of our broken relationship. Her eyes filled with desperation. Please, Jake. I can change. Just give me another chance. Another chance. I echoed, my voice incredulous. How can I trust you again? You've shattered everything we built. I don't even recognize you anymore. The bar fell silent, the tension between us palpable. I could see the realization dawning on her face, the understanding that this wasn't just a fight, it was the end of something that had once been beautiful. Please, she whispered again, her voice trembling. I'll do better. I promise, but I knew it was too late. The finality of her betrayal hung heavily in the air, and I felt an odd sense of relief wash over me. I had laid it all bare, and now it was time to take the next step. I'm done, I said, standing up and grabbing my jacket. I won't be your backup plan, Lisa. I deserve better than this. I deserve someone who values me, someone who will fight for our love, not destroy it. As I turned to leave, I heard her voice tremble behind me. Jake, don't go. Please, but I didn't turn back. I stepped out of the bar, the weight of the confrontation lifting slightly as I walked into the cool night air. The anger was still there, but now it was accompanied by a sense of closure. I had confronted the truth, and in that moment, I felt a glimmer of hope that I could move on from the pain. The confrontation was over, but my journey was just beginning. I would no longer be the victim of her choices. I would take back my life, my power, and my heart, no matter how long it took.